A lot of the initial adventures for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons took place on the Sword Coast. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll run it here. And then I started talking to my first group that I was serious about running for, and realized that they knew the lore of D&D way more than me. Like, I didn't grow up with it. I got started playing D&D just a few years ago when I was 30. So I was like, okay, you guys have this like shared understanding of the world. I can't run a game in a world that I don't know. Almost, I think here's like the only regret that I think I have from early being an early dungeon master. Before I started painting and making terrain and doing all these miniatures and all this stuff, the one thing that I did for the first year was, you're new to it all, trying to write up what happened, novella style, to remember the campaign. Sure. Yep. I get that. I get that. I think about that sometimes. I think when my campaigns are done, each of them, it'll be fun to go back through and tell the story of the campaign, probably in a video form. I don't know if I'll actually like put it up. Maybe it'll just go on the Patreon or something, because it's going to be a fairly like personal thing for the group. But it'd be really fun to tell the story, you know, narratively, I guess. If I could start over knowing what I know now, what would you do differently? Or would I do differently? It's hard to say, because I view things pretty iteratively. So I'm always kind of looking for little improvements. And so as a result, it's like, well, I don't think any of the mistakes, that I've made in the past were a big deal, because then I learned and sort of updated them. I think that this is going to sound silly a little bit, but almost, I think here's like the only regret that I think I have from early being an early dungeon master. Before I started painting and making terrain and doing all these miniatures and all this stuff, the one thing that I did for the first year was I would transfer all of the sort of location, battle maps, whatever, from, I was running a module at the time. I would basically redraw them large on these dry erase mats. And that's what like the entire session would take place. Like, here's the entire stronghold. Maybe it's covered up, maybe it's not. And that was effectively our terrain, for the session. And I used various dry erase mats to do it. I really wish I would have done all of that on large sheets of craft paper, just used real markers and just committed them to paper, because it'd be really fun to go back to those. It'd be really fun to have those. I mean, some of them I spent probably hours on, just drawing them, making them detailed. Had a lot of fun doing that. It would have been a lot more work, grids and things like that would have been more tricky, but it would have been really fun to like, you know, date them, identify like when I use them. If you run it with a player group, have them sign it or put their character names on there, like that. That's just a fun thing to have, and it doesn't really take up that much space. You can see behind me, I've got like, you can get containers for rolls of paper and stuff like that. So it probably sounds like a silly thing to what I would do differently, but it'd be really nice to have more. Like, I have some, but it'd be really nice to have all those maps from that first year of being a DM, because I may never do that again. I mean, we'll see. But right now I have a lot of other stuff to use. So if you're drawing maps on dry erase, as cool as convenient as those are, craft paper, big sheets of, you can use your wrapping paper. It's super cheap. Maybe you'll want it. But yeah, that's probably what I'd say. Thanks for the question. Super interesting to think about. Mm, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, this is one that I didn't start doing for a while, but I think, so I really like copying down my own, like, I copy down stat blocks into my own notes. I've kind of developed, you can see on the left here, this is sort of my own notation that I use, adapted from, uh, adapted from Monarch's Factory, another great channel I'd recommend for all sorts of D&D stuff. But Dale on that channel at one point showed her stat block notes and how she organized them, and I was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to start doing that. The other nice part about doing this is that you sort of save like a snapshot. Like if I modify stat blocks, which is a great way to get started making your own stat blocks, if I modify them, I can save that. I can always put a little footnote about where I got it from. Now these are unique because I created these from scratch. I'm sort of copying them back into like a traditional 2014 5e format because I'm going to be publishing these, so I want it to look like what people expect. But I'd say that's probably another thing that I would try to do early on is start keeping track of those stat blocks and what changes I made and what adjustments and like how I would like that sort of record keeping. For me, I don't know what it is about stat blocks, but the sitting and reading them doesn't do it for me. But if I copy it into my notes, then I'm processing it, right? Maybe it's just the length of time that it takes, or I'm like looking at it differently because I'm retyping it sometimes in my own words. But yeah, I find that easier than just like only if I have 0 time to prep am I going to run something out of like the monster manual or some monster book. If I have the chance, usually one of the first things I'm prepping is how do I get stat blocks that are either I've used them before and I can pull them in, the stuff that I like, or finding something and adapting it. That's one of the first things I try to do if I know I'm going to run a combat, obviously. How long do campaigns typically run, or what is your longest running campaign as DM or player? I've been a dungeon master, probably 50 times as much as I've ever been a player. I like playing, but I'm definitely a dungeon master. Campaigns can run any length. I have run. So right now I'm running 3 campaigns for friends, different friend groups. One is the first group campaign, and it's been running for 5 years. The second one is it wasn't the second group, it was maybe the third or fourth group that I ran a campaign for, but it's been running for almost as long, like 4 years. And the third campaign is only about 3 sessions in, and my goal is for it to be over in 10 sessions. So I'm sort of transitioning away from, I really, really like running long campaigns, but I want to try to run more ideas, get more systems at play, different genres and things like that. I have different campaign concepts I want to try. So I'm trying to push myself to run a shorter campaign. So yeah, but you can, people will, any size of group, they're called different things. If you run it for a couple, for one, it might be like you can play it solo. You can run it for one other person. That's usually called duet play. You can have campaigns that never stop. You can have campaigns that are predefined. You can run it out of a module. You can make it up yourself. I tend to, make my own. It's called homebrew. So I don't have it's not out of a book when I'm running it. But there's really, the crazy thing is there's pretty much no rules to this stuff. You can pretty much do it however you want, which is great. Culture around settings, is it expected the campaigns to be rooted in the D&D lore? I don't really know. I don't think so. I think so. There are 2 ways that you can sort of get involved in the game, right? One is as a player, and the other is as a dungeon master. If you're going in as a player, then you're sort of at the you're sort of at the whims of whatever games you can find access to. And then it could be anything. People run all sorts of things, sometimes based on interest, right? Or what they're passionate about. And if you're a dungeon master, anything goes. There's definitely sort of a standard fantasy style to D&D that I think everybody sort of gravitates toward. But there's also a lot of other systems that support other things. You can also just use it as, the mechanical bones of whatever idea you have. If it's a more modern genre story you want to tell, there are probably other systems that do a better job, but that's just because modern stuff doesn't really play super well mechanically in D&D. But yeah, you can basically do whatever. when I first started running, I considered using the Forgotten Realms or Faerun. I think it goes by both names as sort of like the D&D setting, like the sort of the default setting. There are other settings, but that's sort of like the big one. A lot of the initial adventures for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons took place on the Sword Coast. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll run it here. And then I started talking to my first group that I was serious about running for, and realized that they knew the lore of D&D way more than me. Like, I didn't grow up with it. I got started playing D&D just a few years ago when I was 30. So I was like, okay, you guys have this like shared understanding of the world. I can't run a game in a world that I don't know, right? So I kind of scrapped it and decided to make it my own world rather than somebody else's. Hey Noel, well, I just wanted to drop. I say we watch the recaps while grading us. Help me be productive. Awesome. I'm glad. That's great. GURPS, Forgotten Realms. Yeah, a lot of good ideas. And thank you. No, it's coming. It's getting closer. I'm excited too. I'm excited to be iterating on some of these things and getting them out and hearing what people do with them, and playtesting them myself. I need to fast track finishing one of my campaigns so I have more time every week. But that's a me problem.